I 28 male think my girlfriend 26 female of 4 years is going to leave me for her dying ex-boyfriend in first love. I saw their messages last week and I haven't been the same since. I borrowed her old iPad for work purposes and her Facebook account was still logged in the device. I was going to log in on my messenger because I forgot my phone at home, and I was going to message her, but then I saw that she had messages from her ex-boyfriend. Let's call him Andre. Her and Andre dated for 2 years. They were each other's first love, and she never told me what happened between them. I met her a year and some months after they broke up when I went on a trip with my family to California. I didn't know anything about him other than the fact that they dated sometime in high school and college. When I met her, we instantly hit it off. She showed me around LA, and me living in Australia wasn't a problem. We were in a long-distance relationship for a year, until I saved up enough money to move out of my country for her. Other than that, it took me months to look for a job in Los Angeles, so that I would be financially secure when I got there. 3 years later, we're still going strong. Or so I thought. When I clicked on their conversation out of curiosity, I immediately noticed the kiss and heart emojis. Right then I knew what was happening. I don't want to go on about the details, but the only message that stood out was her talking about leaving me for a few months so that she could take care of him. He has cancer, it's at stage 1, but he reckons he's going to die. On one of his messages to her, he asked if she would visit him in his house. And I'm pretty sure she did because they mentioned how they had a great time together, and that it was good to catch up. Well, it's been a week since I found out. She doesn't know that I know, or that I took her old iPad out of its box, and that I had spent 2 days reading their messages. She has no idea at all. She thinks everything is okay between us, but I actually want to cry for a long time, and that I want to physically hurt myself. I have no friends in LA, all of them are back home, and they're all living their own lives now. I don't want to talk about it to anyone because thinking too deeply about it hurts. I guess when it all comes down to it, she never really loved me, and I'm still trying to accept that. I don't know how to approach this. I have written my resignation letter for work and I have messaged my parents that I was going to go home sometime next month. I did both when I was extremely upset. I just need advice on how to approach this. I don't want to talk to her about it at all. I can't even look her in the eye without wanting to break down. Please help me on what to do and how to approach it correctly. As of now, I'm thinking of leaving while she's at work. Story 2. I'm done with him. Dear Sir/Madam, I am a young woman of 21 years old who has been living with/ dating an older gentleman of 32 years since last year. Let me begin by stating that I met him when I was 19 years old and working at a company in the year 2020. TLDR, my ex-boyfriend cheated on me, and I was forced to leave. I was fortunate enough to wind up sleeping on friends' sofas, but I was anxious for a place to stay. At the moment, it didn't matter where I stayed, all I needed was a place to rest until I could get my act together and begin over. In this case, it is my present BF who enters the picture. We met at work, and he had learned that I had lost my apartment and was seeking for a place to stay because of the situation. He noticed me distraught and weeping in the break room, and he intervened. He'd offer some ice cream, and we'd have a conversation. During our conversation, he brought up the fact that he was moving out at the end of his lease and into the home of another employee of ours. He invited me to join him, but his lease ended much later than I would have wanted, and I didn't want to be forced to continue sleeping on friends' sofas. As a result, he has offered to let me remain with him until we can all move into our new home together. I was skeptical at first, but I was in such a state of desperation that I couldn't say no to the offer. As a result, I ended up living with him for about 5 months at his apartment. And please allow me to say this out. This was quite thoughtful of me. I should have known better than to put my faith in someone so quickly, for after only 1 month, this had elevated our connection to a whole new level. I was still weeping, unhappy that my ex had cheated on me and was evicting me from the apartment. I lost a lot of money as well as furnishings that I was unable to recover. On one particular night, I confided in him about my concerns, and he seemed genuinely concerned for my well-being. But as soon as I regained my composure, he remarked to me, "You know what would make both of us happy?" "What?" "Cut his tires." I thought to myself, being ignorant and gullible. In a light-hearted manner. He chuckled and replied, "Sure, or we can have a makeout session." AITA, on the other hand, did not view him in that light at all. Not only was I not prepared to put myself through another relationship, but I was also not prepared to do it with someone I hardly knew. I laughed a little too nervously and replied, "Is this some kind of joke?" He exclaimed as he edged closer to me on the sofa and continued, "What, am I not beautiful to you? This is only for entertainment purposes. Just give it a go, you'll enjoy it. It will be beneficial to both of us. I spotted your signs and I'm on my way to pick it up." I had no idea what signs he was looking for, but I did not put anything out in front of him that would cause him to behave in this manner. But I was terrified of getting booted out for the second time. As a result, I attempted to divert the discussion to a different topic. But he went to his feet, grabbed me up, and sat me on his knee. I panicked out and told him that this is strange and that we should just watch a movie instead of talking about it. And he didn't pay attention to anything I was saying. It wasn't until he said, "Are we doing this or not?" that I realized what had happened. And I gave myself permission to have relations with him. This was something I could have prevented if I had said no, but I couldn't because I was too terrified. Towards the end of 2020, I had moved in with our third roommate and was in my own space. I was overjoyed at the prospect of beginning my journey toward independence and putting my past behind me. Please understand that my third roommate Joe and my current boyfriend Dan are both fictitious identities that I will use throughout this article. Well, Dan and I weren't dating at the time, and he was pleased that we were just having a good time and nothing more. And once we moved in with Joe, he stopped inviting me out for fun on the weekends. And I was pleased with myself since I didn't want to be in a relationship, so I stayed to myself. Until one night when I went to use the toilet and found my roommate Joe in it, I knocked on Dan's door and asked if I may use his restroom, to which he responded yes without hesitation. And that's where I ended up. When I walked out of the room, he was perched on the side of the bed, calling my name. I raised my eyes to see him smiling and patting the edge of the bed. I told him what I wanted, and he agreed. "You're simply going to walk away from the table. Come on, let's have a good time." I declined, stating that I was not in the mood. He claimed that was all right with him. "It will be completed in a short period of time." When I opened the door to go, he hurried me out the door, locking it in my face and shouting, "Stop being a tease and just relax, knowing that I will appreciate it." After that night, it was much easier to convince myself that he was just like me and that he was taking care of me. Is this what I can do? Is this correct? He and I got into a fight one night after his father criticized me while we were eating supper. His father is Puerto Rican, much like me, but he disowned his roots, claiming that those people were filthy. Those were my folks, my familia, and I love them. Consequently, I get enraged, and he turns to Dan and says, "This is why I married a white lady, they clean." Dan has to be more cautious around me because of the Hispanic woman's excessive noise and volume. Even though I didn't say anything at the table, I lost my cool when we got into the vehicle. I was embarrassed and ashamed. He would repeatedly mansplain things I was previously familiar with. And if I ever made a mistake, he made certain that I felt every ounce of the shame that resulted. When I asked him whether I looked nice in the dress I purchased a while ago, he responded that I did, and that it did. And he left it at that, but our colleague came in on her day off in a dress, and he complimented her, saying she's a really lovely, stunning woman, and that he could melt an ice cube with her words, which was kind of funny. He never stated any of it to me at any point in time. When I asked him if he might try a little more in complimenting me, he erupted in rage, claiming that I was trying to change him. That I was a bad person for putting pressure on him. Well, I've finally woken up from my fearful little self, and I'm over with it. I'm ending my relationship with him tonight and relocating. And I'm not going to look back now. I wish I had realized how strong I truly was, because it would have saved me from having to cope with all of this abuse. I simply needed someone to listen to what I had to say.